Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. For 15 years, I thought I had a pretty good family. My wife, Emily, 39 female, and I, 42 male, built a life together. We have 2 kids, Luke, 14 male, and Ella, 12 female. My world has been completely shattered over the last few weeks, and now I'm left questioning everything. For years, I ignored the signs. Emily's favoritism toward Ella was impossible to miss, but I made excuses for it. I told myself she related more to Ella because she was a girl, and they were both outgoing and shared interests like dance and fashion. I convinced myself that Luke being quieter and more reserved made it harder for her to connect with him. But the truth? The truth has turned my entire understanding of our marriage and family upside down. From the moment Ella was born, Emily treated her like a princess. Every little milestone was celebrated like it was groundbreaking. She'd throw elaborate birthday parties for Ella, complete with themed decorations, party favors, and guest lists a mile long. Meanwhile, Luke's birthdays were afterthoughts, minimal effort, store-bought cakes, and often just the 4 of us at home. It wasn't just birthdays. When Ella joined dance, Emily became the ultimate dance mom. She volunteered at every recital, helped organize fundraisers, and even sewed costumes. But when Luke joined soccer, Emily barely noticed. She went to one game and spent the entire time on her phone, complaining afterward about how boring it was. If Ella got a participation ribbon, Emily would frame it and hang it on the wall. But when Luke brought home a science fair trophy, Emily's response was, "Cool, so what's next?" It broke my heart to see Luke trying so hard to win his mother's approval. He'd shown her his artwork, his grades, and even his soccer medals, but she'd barely glance at them. Meanwhile, Ella would scribble something on a piece of paper, and Emily would act like it belonged in a museum. I saw how much it hurt Luke, but every time I tried to bring it up with Emily, she'd dismiss me. "You're overreacting," she'd say. Or worse, "Luke doesn't mind. He's independent." Last month, Luke turned 14. He'd been excited for weeks, and I planned a small celebration at home. Pizza, his favorite chocolate cake, and a family movie night. It wasn't extravagant, but it was exactly what Luke wanted. He was thrilled. But on the morning of his birthday, Emily dropped a bombshell. "I won't be here tonight," she announced, casually over breakfast. Apparently, Ella had a last-minute dance competition, and Emily decided that was more important than her son's birthday. She didn't even discuss it with me. She just canceled the plans we'd made and left with Ella. Luke tried to hide his disappointment, but I could see the pain in his eyes. That night, I did my best to make the day special for him, but it wasn't the same. As we sat eating pizza and watching his favorite movie, Luke quietly said, "I don't think Mom likes me very much." Hearing that broke something in me. When Emily came home that night, I confronted her. I told her that prioritizing Ella over Luke, especially on his birthday, was cruel and unacceptable. Her response? She rolled her eyes and accused me of always taking Luke's side. She dismissed my concerns entirely and stormed off, refusing to have a serious conversation about it. Over the next few weeks, the tension between us grew unbearable. Emily started spending more and more time away from home, claiming she needed space to think. Meanwhile, I noticed changes in Luke. Without Emily's constant coldness hanging over him, he seemed happier. He smiled more, talked to me about his day, and even started doing better in soccer. But one evening, as we were talking, he said something that shattered me. "Why doesn't Mom love me?" I couldn't let this continue. One night, after another incident where Emily ignored Luke and fawned over Ella, I gave her an ultimatum. I told her she needed to come home, commit to being an equal parent, and treat both kids fairly, or she needed to leave. She called me controlling, packed a bag and left, saying she needed time to clear her head. I thought the time apart might help her realize how damaging her behavior was. I was wrong. A few days after Emily left, I got a phone call from her friend, Rachel. At first, Rachel was hesitant, saying she didn't want to get involved. But then she dropped a bombshell that changed everything. "Luke isn't your biological son," she said. At first, I thought I misheard her. I asked her to repeat herself, and when she did, my stomach dropped. Rachel explained that while Emily and I were engaged, she had an affair with her ex-boyfriend, Mark. When Emily found out she was pregnant, she told Mark, hoping he would step up, ask her to leave me and marry him. But instead, he ghosted her, refusing to have anything to do with her or the baby. Desperate to save face, Emily decided to pass Luke off as mine, believing I'd never question it. But that wasn't all. Rachel went on to say that Emily never bonded with Luke because he reminded her of Mark. Over the years, her guilt and resentment festered into coldness. She blamed Luke for Mark abandoning her and for the lies she had to live with. Meanwhile, she threw herself into parenting Ella, using her as a way to compensate for the love she couldn't or wouldn't give Luke. I was in shock. I couldn't believe that the woman I had loved and trusted for over a decade had been lying to me about something so fundamental. I couldn't believe that Luke, the boy I had raised, loved, and supported since the day he was born, wasn't biologically mine. But what hurt the most was knowing that Emily's neglect of Luke was deliberate. She had let her guilt punish an innocent child who had done nothing wrong. When Emily came back to the house, I confronted her. I told her I knew everything, that Rachel had told me the truth about Luke's paternity and her affair. She didn't even try to deny it. She broke down crying, saying she was so ashamed and didn't know how to tell me. She begged for forgiveness, promising to go to therapy and work on being a better wife and mother. But I was done. Her lies had destroyed our family, and her treatment of Luke was unforgivable. I told her I couldn't trust her anymore, not as a wife, not as a mother, and not as a person. I told her I was filing for divorce and that she needed to leave. She tried to argue, saying I was tearing the family apart. But I reminded her that she had already done that when she decided to lie to me and neglect our son. Since then, I've been working with a lawyer to finalize the divorce and fight for full custody of both Luke and Ella. No matter what DNA says, Luke is my son in every way that matters, and I'll do everything in my power to protect him. Ella has been struggling to process everything, but I've reassured both kids that they are deeply loved and that I'll always be there for them. Emily, meanwhile, has been playing the victim. She's telling friends and family that I'm punishing her for a mistake she made years ago, and that I'm trying to steal her children. Some people have even reached out, urging me to give her another chance for the sake of the family. But I know better. Staying with her would only cause more harm to me, to Luke, and to Ella, who deserves better than to grow up in such a toxic environment. So, am I the a-hole for kicking my wife out and filing for divorce after learning the truth about her affair and Luke's paternity? OP's wife didn't just lie to OP. She betrayed OP's trust on a level that's hard to even comprehend. But what's worse is how she treated Luke. He's an innocent child who did nothing to deserve her neglect and resentment. The fact that she took out her guilt on him is absolutely vile. OP is doing the right thing by standing up for him and protecting him. It sounds like OP has been an amazing father, and Luke is lucky to have OP. Luke will be so much better without such a horrible mother in his life. I think she did enough damage already, and OP should have kicked her out ages ago, but better sooner than later. And now let's hear the community's opinion. This made my blood boil. Emily didn't just betray you. She emotionally abandoned and hurt Luke because of her own mistakes. What kind of mother punishes her child for something they had no control over? And then she has the audacity to play the victim? You're absolutely not the a-hole. You're protecting your kids and giving them the love and stability they deserve. Don't let anyone guilt you into thinking you should give her another chance. Some mistakes are unforgivable. Wow, just wow. The fact that you're still standing after all this is a testament to how strong you are. Emily not only betrayed you, but also inflicted emotional damage on your son for years. Luke is lucky to have you as a father, someone who sees his worth and loves him unconditionally. You're absolutely right to file for divorce. Trust and respect are the foundations of a marriage, and Emily destroyed both. You're doing what's best for your kids, and that's all that matters. Not the a-hole. This is one of the most heartbreaking posts I've read on here. Emily's actions weren't just about an affair. They were about years of neglect, manipulation, and cruelty. Luke is your son, and you've proven that being a father is about love and action, not DNA. The fact that you're prioritizing both kids' emotional well-being shows what an incredible parent you are. Don't let anyone convince you to forgive her for the sake of keeping the family together. She destroyed that family the moment she chose lies over love. You're doing the right thing, and I hope you and your kids find peace moving forward. I am 40-plus-year-old male, and my older brother is the issue that I am dealing with. This started with him not contacting the family much. We were not in a fight, but he simply did not want to have anything to do with us. This is until he started dating what is now his third wife. They had only dated for a month when she said that she was pregnant. She was supposed to be on an IUD, but she got pregnant anyways. He was excited to finally have a child of his own and shared it with the family. My mother was very excited and started talking with him daily. He got a civil union with her, and we thought this was actually going to be a good thing. The crazy stuff started not long after this. I do not remember everything exactly in order, but she told all of us that she had developed a complication with the pregnancy, and then that her mother had died. Shortly after, her father and brother died, and she was going to get a large inheritance. I was beginning to think this all sounded too much like a soap opera and asked him if it was all real. He said he saw a bank statement with the money in it and that it was all real. I believed him. What followed was months of excuse after excuse for why they did not have the money, and she was claiming that she was now most likely to die in childbirth. I had decided to believe him as she was having problems with high white blood cell counts, and people were running blood drives for her. Plus, I lived almost 2,000 miles away. She was talking to me and the family a lot and was buying gifts for people, as she was claiming she was dying. I finally got the proof I needed that this was all a lie when she sent the family a photo from a 3D ultrasound of what she said was the baby. A family friend found out that the picture was downloaded from an OBGYN ad. We confronted them with this info, and they claimed that the OBGYN office had stolen her pictures. Even after I pointed out that the original picture had a time and place stamp from over 10 years ago, and in New York. I have no idea why she is lying about everything, but my brother still believes everything she says. He even took family and medical leave because he believed she is going to die. They have also borrowed lots of money from the family. He got fired from his job when it turned out that the family medical leave paperwork was signed by her, pretending to be the doctor. She also never lets him go into the doctor appointments. He claims that he talks with the doctor, but I have heard that this is all through texts. I do not believe she is even pregnant. She is not very big and is claiming to be in her 66th week of pregnancy. Yes, she is claiming that she has been pregnant for a year and 3 months now. When I told him this was not possible, he disowned me. She started making up lies about me, and he threatened to sue me for the gifts she had sent to me. I'm not worried about a lawsuit because a lawyer would take one look at this and laugh. My questions. 1. Is there a way to make her prove she is pregnant or not? 2. Was it illegal for her to impersonate a doctor by signing the doctor's name to the FMLA paperwork? Also, could he get in trouble for turning in the paperwork even though he did not know it was fake? 3. Is what she is doing illegal, or is this a civil matter? I and others have reported her to the local police, but they have not done anything. Sure, a 66-week pregnancy is possible, if she was a walrus. Sorry, I just had to Google that. Seriously, what people are missing here is the financial fraud this woman is committing. There are actually 2 scams being run. 1, the expected large inheritance, where she is borrowing money from the family members. If not from the family, then at least from your brother. 2, if she is accepting donations because she is sick and dying, then that is also a scam. The donations don't have to be monetary. They can be in the form of gifts for the baby. Since you are more than 2,000 miles away, this could be an interstate crime, also known as wire fraud, a federal offense. A conversation with your local FBI office might help you clear things up a bit. A little background info, cause our family situation is pretty weird. My mom went to a college a few hours away from her hometown in 1999 and met my dad. My parents were together very briefly, like a month, and my mom got pregnant with me. She moved back to her hometown after getting pregnant, and my dad followed so he could be involved in my life. My mom died the day after I was born due to childbirth complications, but my dad stayed in her hometown to raise me. He's not close to his family at all, so my mom's family has pretty much become his adoptive family. My maternal grandparents practically see him as a son at this point, and vice versa, and my mom's 2 sisters see him as a brother, or so they say. Now a little background on my mom's oldest sister. She's been married since before she met my dad in 1999, but she despised her husband for as long as I can remember. No one in the family likes him either, for reasons I won't get into. She always says she'll leave him, but they've been married for 22 years, and she still hasn't. She has no children. She and I aren't super close, but we're also not estranged or anything. Background info on my dad. He had a couple long-term girlfriends when I was much younger, but he hasn't had one in at least 10 years. He claims it's because he likes being single and having fun. Everyone just sort of views him as a womanizer who doesn't want to settle down. He'll occasionally tell me that he has a date, but I've never seen any proof of this. I'm extremely close to him, but I don't ask him about his love life because that would be weird. Outwardly, my aunt and my dad aren't super close. They see each other when we all get together as a family, which is often, but they've never openly hung out one-on-one or anything like that. When we're all together, they just act like siblings. However, I'm a little intuitive and inquisitive person, and when I was about 13, I started getting suspicious of them. The weirdest thing was there was never any proof or evidence that something was going on between them. It was just a gut feeling I had. Something in the way they looked at each other and spoke of each other. I started to theorize about the technicalities, wondering how and when they'd be meeting up if they were. I wondered if they were secretly meeting up when I was at school or at my grandparents'. When I was younger, I used to spend the night at their house at least 4 times a month, just because I wanted to, and sometimes my dad would ask them to keep me because he had to work late. But like I said, there was never any proof or evidence, so my theories were no more than occasional passing thoughts. Fast forward to when I was 16. My dad owns a store, and when I first got my license, curiosity took over me, and I started driving by his store on the nights he was working late to see if he was actually there. He always was, but one time my aunt's car was there too. My dad has a pull-out couch in his office. He doesn't know that I know this. The only reason I do is because I looked at it really hard one day and figured it out. It's one of those couches that looks completely normal, but turns into a bed. Seeing her there confirmed my suspicions. I decided to leave it at that and stop prying because I already felt weird and nosy enough. The whole situation really haunted me for a while, and it honestly still does. I sobbed all the way home and all night long after confirming my suspicions. I always viewed my dad as someone with amazing morals, and the thought of him having a long-term affair with a married woman, not just any married woman, but my own aunt, really messed with my head. And on top of that, I couldn't tell anyone about it. It's confirmed this has been going on for at least 4 years, but I suspect it's been way longer than that. Like I mentioned earlier, my dad hasn't had a girlfriend in over 10 years. I suspect this relationship with my aunt is the reason. There was also an instance in 2018 where my aunt and my dad both coincidentally went out of town and came back at the exact same time. My aunt claimed to be in New York visiting a friend, and my dad claimed to be in Nebraska for a business convention, but I think they may have actually taken a trip together. I've been walking on eggshells for the past 4 years and living in constant fear that I'll be caught in an awkward situation and/or accidentally see something I'm not supposed to. Something much worse than just a car at his office. And then, my fears finally came true a few hours ago. I'm doing college from home right now, living with my dad. Tonight we had a miscommunication. He thought I was spending the night at my boyfriend's, but I was really planning to come home. I got home about midnight and figured it was safe because my aunt's car wasn't there or anything. I also was under the impression that my dad knew I was coming home, so he wouldn't have her over. But when I walked in, my aunt and my dad were just sitting on the couch watching a movie, all cuddled up. I went in through the game room door, which is the room they were in, so I walked right in on them. Thank God they were only watching a movie, but it was still pretty traumatizing considering they have no idea I've known about their relationship for years now. We all just kind of froze for a second. Then my dad said, "I didn't know you were coming home." And I said, "I told you I was." Then, in a weird freaked out state, I ran back to my car and went back to my boyfriend's. I'm still at my boyfriend's. He knows everything, by the way. He's the only one who does. And I haven't heard from my dad since. It's 3 a.m. and I've been waiting for a text or a call, but I haven't gotten one, which I think is super weird considering we're close and usually have great communication. I haven't reached out to him either because I don't know what to say. Obviously, we're inevitably going to have to address this, probably tomorrow, and I'm so freaked out I can't sleep. Do I wait for him to reach out to me first, or do I text him if he hasn't texted me by morning? Do I tell him I've known the whole time? If he says they were just hanging out, or it was a one-time thing, which I feel like he might, do I pretend to believe him? What I'm going to say first is to calm down a bit. Yes, this is serious, but it's not the end of the world. It's regrettable that you had to realize so soon that your father isn't as much of an ethical person as you would like him to be. But sadly, parents are just like any other human being. It is what it is. Beyond that, I think you need to finally decide what's important for you. Honesty as a value, or the issue this coming up would cause in your family. I make no judgment either way. But what I would recommend, regardless of whether you decide to keep their secret or not, is that you're honest with your father. That you tell him that you've suspected, known for so long, and that it has clearly been affecting you. Maybe you decide this affair is none of your business, but your relationship with him certainly is. And it's important that you open up with him and that you two figure out what this means for your daughter-father relationship. Your aunt is cheating on her mean husband. That isn't ideal, but it is not uncommon. Your dad is sleeping with a married woman. Again, not ideal, not uncommon. It is very common for people who lose their partners to end up with their siblings. And you do not know the whys of this. Why your aunt doesn't leave her husband. Why they fell in love. At the end of the day, people have complicated lives. Your dad loves you. Talk to him about it, so it doesn't feel like a big secret. But to you, this feels more important than it really is. Your dad's love life is separate from you. You do not have to worry about it. All families have weird secrets. I, 29 male, have a wife, 28 female. She's the most caring soul I know and puts most people before her. We have a son together. He's 3 months old. My wife had a best friend called Sarah. I don't like her. She makes everything about her, which is a red flag, of course. On Saturday, Sarah came over because they haven't seen each other for a while. I was in the kitchen and my son and them were in the living room. My son was getting hungry, so my wife breastfed in front of Sarah. Sarah gasped and said, "That's unhygienic to do in front of people. No one wants to see your tits." My wife came in the kitchen basically crying and breastfed our son there. I was furious, made my wife cry because she was breastfeeding in our own house. I stormed in there while she was looking through our stuff. I said to her, "Get the duck out of my house." She was saying, "Why?" I told her, "Don't make me do it myself." She looked startled and basically ran out. My wife was still crying, so I hugged her. Skip to the evening. My wife and I were watching a movie with our son on the bed, and she got a call from Sarah. She was saying that we are lucky she isn't pressing charges because I threatened her. She handed me the phone. I told her to duck off and blocked her on my and her phone. I don't feel bad what I said. If a baby is hungry, it needs to eat. And if that means a mom has to get her boobs out, then that is completely fine and normal. So, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. That woman is horrible and shouldn't be in your house at all if she can't show basic respect to her supposed best friend. Not the a-hole. It's unhygienic to have a-holes this big in your house. Best keep her out and make sure your wife can breastfeed your son for as long as they both want. I recently broke off an engagement, due to my ex being a cheating door. The ring I wore during the engagement was an heirloom willed to me by my late grandmother. It is traditional in my family that this ring is passed to the eldest daughter, and my mother had been keeping it safe for me until I found the one. My ex knew this and asked for it when he asked for my mother's permission to propose. She gave it to him, and he had possession of it for less than 24 hours before he proposed. Now that we've broken up, he's demanding that I give him the ring back. He's insistent that Alabama law makes it illegal for me to keep the ring, that in the event that an engagement ends, the ring must be returned to the man, period. I looked into it, and all I can find is that the ring belongs to whomever paid for it. When I told him this, he told me that I didn't have any claim on the ring, since I didn't purchase it. I was only willed it, and that the fact that it was willed to me is irrelevant, since my mother gave it to him. He's demanding that I return the ring and any information I have about the insurance policy on it. It's extremely old and much more valuable than your average K jeweler's piece. He says that if I don't return the ring by Monday, he'll sue me for it or its value in court. Can he seriously do this? This ring has been in my family since the 19th century. Does he really own it simply because A, he's male, or B, it sat in his pocket for less than a day? Would the fact that my mother was only storing it for me to keep it safe and maintain the surprise of an engagement matter? It wasn't hers to give away. Gmaw, settler, placed ring in testamentary trust for OP, beneficiary. Trust to terminate when beneficiary finds the one, or within a reasonable time thereafter. Mom served as trustee. Beneficiary found the one, hereinafter referred to as fiancé D-bag, or merely D-bag, who requested the ring from trustee to deliver to beneficiary. Trustee delivered ring to D-bag for delivery, as trustee's agent, to beneficiary in suitably ceremonial manner, in accordance with family tradition and, perhaps implied, intention of settler. D-bag, acting as agent of trustee, delivered ring to beneficiary, hopefully ceremonially. Propose of trust having been fulfilled, trust terminated, and trustee released from duties. Sole legal title and possession of ring now held by beneficiary. Huzzah! Here endeth the tale.